Everyone has their own definition of a hero. After researching the archetype of a hero and studying the works Oedipus, Trifles, and Fight Club, I came up with my own definition. I kind of narrowed it down to 3 main points. The first being that a hero is always fighting for positive change or a good cause to help others. And whether it's protecting their kingdom, saving the damsel in distress, or rebelling against society to create something better, they're always trying to help other people and not just themselves. The second trait that I looked at was that heroes tend to rise from nothing and reach a point of a role of power or leadership. And the last quality that I looked at of a hero was that they always have a tragic flaw, and this ultimately leads to their downfall for the most part. So the first hero that I looked at was Oedipus Rex, and Oedipus really exemplifies the classic stereotypical hero, the Hercules type, the strong one, saving the damsel in distress, that whole thing. And he began as nothing and then rose to his royal status as King of Thebes. And the whole play is based around his quest to save his kingdom. His kingdom is in turmoil with plague and hunger, and he's just trying to save all of these people. And while he's doing a good thing by trying to save everybody, he does have his own tragic flaw. He thinks very highly of himself, and it's seen as more an excessive amount of pride. And this ultimately leads to his downfall because he tries to defy the gods. He thinks he's better than the gods. This play takes place during the Greek times where all the people looked up to the gods for everything. They respected them, they honored them, they treasured them, and he thought that he could defy them by going against his predetermined fate, which they proclaimed. And one of the authors that I studied said that they described the play as the story of a proud man rightly humbled, obviously referring to Oedipus. And he doesn't become humbled until he goes through his whole route of tragedy. And then he finally realizes that he isn't above everyone else. He's not on the same level as the gods and this inhuman force. So it takes real tragedy and drama to kind of put him in his place. The next hero that I studied was a very different type of hero. It was Tyler Durden from Fight Club. And Tyler is not the classic hero. He's the more modern version of the hero. Very edgy, very rebellious, takes very drastic measures to get what he wants. And Tyler is fighting against the everyday corporate society that he feels tries to conform and corrupt people. And ultimately he wants to improve society for everybody as a whole by destroying it. Tyler says, maybe we have to break something to make something better out of ourselves. And this really shows his obvious destructive, excessive methods, but also that he does these things for a good reason. And because he has a good purpose and a good end in mind, that's what makes him a hero. Now, Tyler is actually the same person as our narrator of Fight Club. He begins as a nameless nobody, a very weak character, and then he creates this alter ego, Tyler, so that he can become this confident, cool, sly guy, and most importantly, powerful. And through Tyler, he rises to his leadership position as the head of the organization, Fight Club. And his tragic flaw is actually the opposite of Oedipus's. He doesn't think highly of himself to begin with. He doesn't put himself above others. He actually has a lack of confidence and self-worth, which is why he has to create Tyler as another version of himself. And his identity problems actually cause him to become a sociopath and go crazy because he doesn't know who he is. And that tragic flaw is what kind of brings him down in the end. The last hero that I looked at was the most unlikely of the 3, and I looked at the females in Trifles as a whole, because Trifles takes place in the late 1800s, and women had little to no individual freedoms and power to themselves. And just to put that into perspective, women didn't even gain the right to vote until 1920. So they were way behind, just had to listen to their husbands and go through everyday society as your classic mother, housewife. And the women in this play a role of sort of like a Nancy Drew save-the-day detective, and they actually find the evidence to the murder case before all of the men. And they do this through common knowledge. They don't use drastic, destructive measures. They don't have fancy royal titles or anything like that, but what they do have is the power of knowledge, and they rebel against the men by keeping this knowledge secret to themselves. The secret that they're keeping is the evidence which proves Mrs. Wright guilty of killing her husband. And the reason they keep this secret is because Mrs. Wright is also portrayed as a hero because she does the totally unheard of thing by standing up against her husband. And so she rebels against the men by killing her husband. I felt that these heroes in these three works best portrayed my version of a hero, but another one of the works that I considered using was The Awakening for some of the same reasons as Trifles, because it was another unlikely hero as a woman, and Edna Pontellier also stands up against men in society through her independence. But when she does this, I think that she has too many tragic flaws that make her a less respectable hero. She cheats on her husband, she's an